This is the first video on my channel, and what we're going to do today is that we're going to build a chatbot. It's going to be your chatbot, which is going to uh, use the APIs provided by OpenAI, and we'll try to build the backend using Django, and we'll just build a simple front end using JavaScript and just try to make things work. So I'm inside this root folder ODC. Okay, so in this folder we want to create a folder which is basically going to contain all the different files regarding our chatbot, both the front end and the back end. So I'll just make a directory. Okay, so going inside the directory, and now what we want to do is that we want to create a boilerplate of JavaScript. For that I'm going to use Vite. Okay, you just have to ensure that npm is installed in your environment. I have just created an environment and activated it. I'm not sure whether it's there, so I'll just check for it. So I'll just check using this command. So as you can see, it's showing the version. So we are good to go with npm at least. Okay, so yeah, so in order to install that, we'll just use npm create white @latest. We're going to call the folder as client, and it's going to be a template vanilla. Vanilla is basically for vanilla JavaScript. Okay, so we select vanilla, we select JavaScript. Okay, so I think now we are there inside. We have created the boilerplate, so just going inside the client, and we just do npm install to install all the packages required for running the application. Okay, so now if you see, if I run npm run dev, so that should actually back to our code. So now what we want to do is that we want to make some changes to this. So we'll just stop the server for now. Okay, we have got the index.html, that is the main HTML file, and we've got this picture in the SVG format, and we got that main.js. We just want to change the name it to script.js. Okay, we have got some style.css. so what we want to do is that we want to replace it with the CSS of our own. So I have attached the link to the CSS required for this video in the description below. You can have a look at it, and you can just paste it over and you'll be good to go. Yeah, so now we have got the CSS, and what we also want to do is that we want to download the assets folder, which contains different icons of chatbot and user emoji and bot emojis in the chatbot. So I've got all those things in assets. You can download this in the Google Drive link that I put in the description. Okay, so first let us do something with the HTML. So what all components do we want? So first of all, we want a page which would be having a chat container, which would basically contain all the different basically the history of that particular chat instance. So basically it would have a series of chats like bot chat and then user chat, so the conversation would be there, and then below that we'll have a form which would contain basically the prompts that the user would give in order to expect the answer from the chatbot. Okay, so couple of changes that we want to make here is that we want to use the icon, which is basically going to be in assets we have chatbot icon. Okay, we want to use that. Also, we can call this vtap as my chatbot. Okay, these all things are done. So yeah, we also want to attach our css, which is basically style.css. Okay, basically create the bulk of our body. So in that we'll have, so let's enclose everything uh, inside div which has got an id of app. Okay, that is there. Okay, this was fine. This is great. And then what we want to do is that we want to also create an id of chat container. Okay, that is there. And whatever value that, whatever HTML that's going to go inside, it's going to be done by JavaScript. Okay, then we want basically a form which takes in the prompt from the user. So I'll just remove this, and we're going to define this as so the text area we can just remove, we can just keep it, just want the default values. So text area which has got the name of prompt from the user, and also a placeholder of basically ask the chatbot, yeah, or ask your chatbot rather. Okay, so this is done. Yeah, so now we want to also have a button. Right. So this button, what we want actually is that this button should have a type of submit, right? So basically the form being, a sub element of form, form has got, submit type. So we can define that in the JavaScript. What else do we want? We want to have an image of send in this. So we have it in the assets, send.svg, and you can call it send. Okay, so this type, and now I think we are done for the button, and with that we are done with almost all the elements of body. And with the JavaScript, what we want to do is that we want to replace it with script.js. Okay, so I think we are good to go with this. Yeah, so if we run the server now, then we can see that. Go back to the code and just try to write the JavaScript. We don't want any of this. Okay, we want to write our own JavaScript. So first of all, what we want to do is that we want to import the bot and the user icon. I think it is bots.svg. Yeah, bot.svg. Okay. We also want to use import user from assets / user.svg. Okay, so is that we want to, so I'll just capture the element form, which will be equals to document dot query selector. We have got, so basically since we had the form element, we can just use form tag to extract it, no problem. We'll just do like this. Okay, and also we want to get the chat container, right? We want to make some changes, as the chat conversation progresses. So yeah, query selector, and since it has got an ID of chat container, I'll just copy this, and yeah, query selector ID. So yeah, now we are good to go. So now what we want to do is that so what I would do is that we have got a submit button at the end. So we want to place event listeners for that submit button. Okay, so how we are going to do that? So we want to add event listener. Okay, and we will add the form dot event listener. We want it to trigger on the submit, and then what we want to do is that we would create a handle submit function which is going to handle this. So okay, I'll create it, but okay. And also, if somebody enters presses enter key in order to submit, we want to take that as well. So yeah, event listener, on key up we want to trigger it, which is basically we are going to use an arrow function for this. So the event is going to be E, and then we're going to just write that if E is basically equals to enter key. So for that, what we want to do is that if E dot key code equals to 13, because 13 is the code for enter. Okay, I'll just that once if it is the end. So if it is the enter key, so what we want to do is that we want to call handle submit, right? And we're going to pass on the event E as well. Okay, just to be on the safer side, we just put all the semicolons. Yeah, looks fine, I guess. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to define a few helper functions which are going to be used in multiple places. So first of all, we want to define a loader function. So whenever some user is entering a chat instance and it is waiting for the response from the bot, we want three small dots to come and show that it's waiting for the response. So yeah, we just want to do this, and we want to define the function loader which is going to take an element as one of the arguments. And yeah, so now what we want to do is that first of all, we want to remove if there is anything inside it. So we just okay. Now what we want to do is that we want to keep calling it so that three dots appear one after another. So we want to use set interval function for that. So as we have defined that load interval, so we can just equals to set interval. Okay, and inside the set interval we're going to have an arrow function which is going to take in two arguments. One is the function and the second is what is the frequency of, at what time interval it keeps calling the function. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to append it to the text content. Okay, a single dot. Right. Okay, and we want to keep appending it till the time we have four dots. Okay, so if element.text content is equals to 4 dot, then what we want is that we want to again make it empty. Okay, so essentially this will ensure that 3 dots are coming one after the other. And yeah, the next function which we want to create is called type text. So what type text is going to do is that whenever we get a response from the backend, uh, we don't want to show the response as it is on the first go. We want to show it character by character, as it happens. If you have used the ChatGPT, you must have seen. So for defining that, we want to create a function type text, which would take basically two inputs, the element as well as the text. Okay, the type text. Okay, so in the type text function, what we want to do is that we want to first, basically we have to check that we're going to track an index, and then if with every time we print out that index, we want to keep incrementing the index until the time it reaches the length of the text. We want to keep running it, and then we just we just stop it there. So we first want to define the index as 0. Okay, and then what we want to do is that we just want to define the is equal to set interval. Okay, yeah, set interval. And now what we want to do is that we want to create an arrow function, which basically so if text dot if index is less than text dot length. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want to keep this running, right? So we want to do is that we want to, in that elements dot text content, or we would use the inner HTML, and in the inner HTML what we want to do is that we want to keep appending the current value of that index. So it's going to be text dot char at index. Okay, this is there. And then what we want to do is that this is there. And what's the else condition going to be? When we have reached it, so we want to kill the set interval function. So for that, we'll just use the clear interval for the interval. Okay, so I think this function is also good to go. Okay, so now what we want to define is a function which basically generates a unique ID. So each time a chat instance is coming from a bot or from a user, we want to attach an ID to that, so that we can retrieve it later and do some kind of modifications on that. So in order to define the unique IDs, we'll just define the function. So function generate unique ID. Okay, this is going to be the function, and it doesn't take any argument. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want to, so for unique ID, at that moment we want to use the timestamp, and we can also use a random number. And yeah, so we can use some combination of that to basically create a unique ID, which is going to be unique by the way we are defining it. So okay, so we'll just be const random. Sorry, first we'll just define a const timestamp is equal to, just going to use the inbuilt package of JavaScript date.now. Also, we want to use the random number. Okay, so which is going to be the math dot random. Okay, and what we want to do is that we want to convert this random number so into a hexadecimal string. So this is just for shortening it, and also yeah, so just for shortening it. So random number dot to string, we'll just use it, and hexadecimal. So yeah, and we're going to return ID, and this is going to be, we're going to be using timestamp as well as the hexadecimal that we had gotten. Okay, so yeah, this function is also done. So now what we want to do is that we want to as we had spoken that this chat container, something has to go inside this, right? So that's so each time a conversation, an instance happened, a new stripe, a chat stripe goes inside that. So we'll just create a function for that. So it's going to be function chat stripe. So what are the arguments that it's going to take? So first of all, whether it's an AI message or a user message. So is AI, it's a Boolean thing, and it's going to have a value, like what is the text that's going for that chat stripe. And also we want to put inside the ID for that. So we are just going to put a unique ID. Okay, so sorry, this is a Python way of doing things, which is yeah, just out of habit I keep doing this. Okay, so now how do we define the chat stripe function? So in the chat stripe function, what we want to do is that we want to create a simple HTML, okay, which basically we want to inject in the chat container. Okay, so what is that HTML going to look like? So that's going to be basically a chat, basically a wrapper, and then inside that there will be chat and containing a profile, which is going to be the profile picture, and then we also going to have the message of that, so all those things are going to be there inside it. So we're just going to return, and yeah, so now what we are going to do is that we're going to create div class equals to wrapper. Okay, yeah, now what we want to do is that if class equals to chat, and also we want to use that whether it's a AI message or not. So for that we can just use the operator. So we'll just so if it's an is AI, then we are going to use the ID or the class AI, otherwise we're going to leave it. Okay, so yep, seems right. Okay, this is done. Now what we want to do is that we want to create a a profile along with the message. So okay, div class equals to, so we want to have the profile, right, which is nothing but the profile picture. So I mean avatar, you can call it. Okay, so img for legibility. So now the source of it is going to depend on, you're going to use bot or user depending on whether it's an AI message or it's a human message. So again, we are going to use the operators, the conditional operators of JavaScript. Okay. So what we're going to do is that, so the condition is if it's an is AI. So if that is the case, then we are going to use the bot. Otherwise, we are going to use a user. So this is going to be the image location, and the alternate text is going to be a very similar code, just small modification that, if if it's an is AI, so instead of using the bot image location, we want to just use the bot text and then user text. Okay, this is done. Image tag, self closing tag. Okay, fine, this is done. So now what we want to do is that the profile thing is also closed. Now what we want to do is that we want to create a new div which is going to be for the message, and which is also going to have the ID defined by the unique ID, right, is equal to so ID equals to unique ID, right? This is the yep, seems good. Okay, and the message is basically going to be the value, right? So we can just use the value. Okay, div, and yeah, similarly we can just close with a close the chat div, not with, and then it's going to be again div. Okay, so our chat stripe function is also there. So now we want to finally create the handle submit function. In order to create it, what we're going to do is that we're going to create an asynchronous function, because sending requests to an API takes a time, and so you don't want to get stuck with that. We want to run all the other codes. So for to know more about that, you can just ask our chatbot also, the chatbot that we build eventually. Okay, so now let's define the handle submit function that we are going to call. Okay, so this time we are going to use arrow function and an asynchronous function for this. So it's going to be submit, and it's going to be async e, which is going to take the event in case it's a press key up. Okay, so which is okay now, great. So let's imagine what's going to happen as a user is going to enter a chat prompt. He presses enter or presses that icon for submit. So what should happen? So first of all, we want to capture that thing that he has typed, the prompt. Then we want to reset it, we want to delete that, right? We want to use that to create a new chat stripe which would go into the chat container, right? And then what should happen is that we want to run the loader thing, that 3 dot thing, that we are waiting for the response. Okay, and once that response arrives, we want to put the bot's response in a type text one by one. Okay, so we just do what we have said. Okay, so as with uh, key up thing, that we want to just prevent the default behavior, which for an enter key is just going to the next line. So we just want to enter it and not nothing like that. So okay, so that is there, and then we want to capture the the chat instance into a very an object data, which would basically be an instance of form data of, we had taken the form here, so we'll just use it here. Okay, so yeah, form. Okay, so now we have captured it, so now we can delete. So we can just form dot reset. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to create a user stripe. So I just write it like that. And so as we had taken the chat container also, so we want to do some operation in that. So chat container would basically be we will define the inner HTML of that. Okay, and we'll just append it to using the chat stripe function. Okay, so using chat stripe, so if it so it's basically not an AI message, so we'll just keep it false, and the value we know that it was basically data dot get prompt, right? So since we had taken it with the name of prompt, so yeah, so that is done. Okay, so this is done. So now what we want to create a bot stripe. So, and in that we'll be putting that 3 dots loader thing. So right now we don't have the message, so we'll not be putting the, of course, the response, but the 3 dots has to come, right? So we'll just do that. So in order to do that, we'll just create first a unique ID. Unique ID was not needed for the chat container of the user, because we're not going to do any operation. The prompt is given, so yeah, it's done. So we're just going to generate unique ID. Generate unique ID used to take no functions, so this should be good to go. And what else do we want to do here is that so after getting this, we want to create another, we want to append the inner HTML, right? Chat stripe. Now this time it's going to be true because it's an AI message. We don't know the value yet, so we're just going to keep it blank, and this is the ID is going to be unique ID. Okay, so with that we have created empty this thing. And now what we want to do, one thing is that we want to just as new stripes are being created, our this thing, our that chat window might get the chat container might shift up or down. So what we want to do is that we want to keep it at the last chat should appear at the last, right? So in order to do that, we'll just so we want to focus the scroll to the bottom, and in order to do that, what we're going to do is that chat container will just set the scroll top. So we want to up scroll a little bit. How much? We want to scroll it up by the chat container's height, so that the amount that it has shifted will again go up. Okay, so that is going to be dot scroll height. Okay, this is just a small thing. Okay, now what we want to do is that we want to okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to put the message div. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is that we're going to take the message div and put the loader thing in that. So in order to do that, we are going to get that element. So we can say message div, which is basically equals to document dot get elements by id, and we knew the id, right? So we have captured it, so it's going to be unique id. Okay, so now what we want to do is that yeah, so you've taken the message div. So now we want to put loader into that. So loader was basically the function which was basically going to return us 3 dots. Okay, so loader, and the element is going to be message div. Okay, and now we come to the part where we are actually capturing the response. Okay, so constant response is basically going to be equals to, going to again await it, because it's going to be an asynchronous function. So waiting for the response to arrive. So in order to get it, we will just use the fetch function using the options thing. Yeah, not the fetch then we're just going to use the fetch options. So we'll just first use url is something which we are going to put after we build the backend for that, so bear with that for now. Right now we're just going to use the different options. So in the option, we want to define that the method is basically going to be post, and we want the headers to be, for this call, is going to be that content type is going to be application slash JSON. Anything could be there. Okay, so this is just normal stuff. And then what we want to do is that we want to have a body, and in that body we want to send the prompt. So body, we want to just make sure that it's in the JSON stringified fashion. So okay, so this is there, and then JSON stringify of basically the yeah. So in the code, if you see, we have not defined the time interval or frequency to repeat the loader function. This is one. Similarly for type text also, I have not added this. Okay, also this class function that I have added to this, it should go to the wrapper, the whole wrapper. Okay, these things are there. Then apart from that, our e should not be here because you have already passed the event. Okay, and now this this should be const data. Also this should be const unique id. Just the pythonic hang still not get going away. Similarly, this is also const message div. Okay, and what else is there? This is looking fine. Yeah, so let's just try again to see if it's working. Okay, so this is looking fine now. And now what do we want to do is that set up the backend for this. So as I told before that we'll be using Django for this. So just going to this, sorry, I'm just going to open a new folder. Yeah. Yeah, now it's fine. And cd my chatbot, conda deactivate. We want to set up a new virtual environment. So in order to do that, what we'll do, we'll say python nv python nv. Okay, python not found. Let's see if python 3 works. Should work. Okay, it is work now. Okay, it is working now. And now what we want to do is that we want to install Django. Pip install Django. Okay, this is now installed. And now what we want to do is that we want to set up a new Django project. Django admin, start project. Yeah, I think it should be together. Start project. Project name is basically chatbot backend. Okay, so now if you see, we have created just go to this. We have created a chatbot backend. Okay, so in it we have the files of Django, and then we have got this. And so let's set up the Django app. My app, we can name it. Oh, sorry. Python manage.py. Python, it's quite frustrating. I think we are not in the file right now. Okay. Yeah, now it should work. Yeah. So now if you see, we have created the my app. Okay. So without further ado, let's just first add the my app to our project. Okay, settings, we'll add it in the app. So should my app dot apps dot this. Okay, so this is done. Now if you see, if we just try to run server, then you've got the server running. Yeah, so just to make you okay, let's come back to the Visual Studio. So let's stop the server for now. Yeah. Okay, I think so first of all, what we want to do is that we want to add the migrations. Python 3 manage py migrate, couple of things that will happen. Okay, and now what we want to do is that we want to set up the URLs. So in the URLs, what we want to do is that we want to include the my apps URL, which we are going to create. Path, this is going to be my app. It's my app dot URLs, right? URL is going to be API. Yeah. So whenever it is calling the home domain / API, we'll go to we'll be hitting the my app URLs. Okay. Now let's define the my app URLs. .py. It was URLs only, right? Yeah, URLs. Okay. Let's uh, let's write the code for urls.py for the my app. So from Django dot URLs import path. Okay. And also we want to include the functions from views which we are going to create. Okay. And the app name is going to be my app in case we need to use namespaces. And URL patterns will basically be, first of all, path. If nothing is there, then yeah, we want to do is that we want to call views dot let's say it's get chat response with the name which is equal to chat response. Okay, this is done. Now let's complete the views. So here what we are going to do is that we are going to handle the incoming request coming from the front end, and we are going to send that request to the ChatGPT, and we are going to see how it we're going to send the request and how just take care of the response and send it back to the front end. Okay, so couple of things. We are using CSRF exempt. This is in case it is running some Django has got some inbuilt middlewares to so we're just going to include this from Django dot views dot decorators dot CSRF import. So this is for the cross origin request forgery. We want to avoid that, but we're not bothered about that since it's a local thing. So yeah, import CSRF exempt. Similarly, we are also going to import Django dot views dot http dot decorators dot http import we want to require some HTTP methods. So basically we want to handle some HTTP methods with this, which are going to be post and option request. Yeah, so here we want to have require HTTP methods, and this we want to have post as well as options. Okay, now just we had written this function get response. We'll just try to complete it. Get response, request. So whenever a request is coming, what we want to do is that, so first of all, not to forget, we have to specify the OpenAI API key. Okay, so which is going to be yeah, so I'll just paste it here. And ideally what we want to do is that we want to keep it hidden in a txt file, and then I just didn't want to complicate it, so I just put my API key, and I'm going to change it later on. So yeah, So this is there, and then what we want to do is that, so now the request has come from the front end. So if request dot body, so if there is some body in it, I mean it's not an empty request, so in that case we want to try something. We want to try to send it to uh, the OpenAI servers. Okay, so to make a post request, what we want to do is that first of all we want to import requests, right? Import requests. Okay, I just hope we have got uh, requests, otherwise we're just going to install it in our virtual environment. Okay, it's already there. So okay, let's try data equals to, we want to, so since it's coming the JSON format, we want to import JSON also. So yeah, JSON dot loads request dot body. Okay, so now we are going to take this, and then we're going to extract the chat prompt from here. If you remember, the chat prompt was there inside the, in that request body. We had, had this, so in the body we have this prompt, right? So chat prompt is equals to basically data dot get, in case if we have some body in it. If there is none, then we just want to get a default of empty quotes. So this will be there. Okay, so we've got the chat prompt also, and now we just want to specify which URL we want to hit. So yeah, what I'll do is that yeah, so now we have to see like which URL we want to hit. So URL for ChatGPT or for OpenAI is going to be https://api.openai.com. We have to use chat completions, but right now I'm just making use of completions. Completions. Yeah. So this is the URL, and then we want to define the headers for making a post request. So the content type is going to be applications/JSON. This is like the pretty standard stuff. And then authorization, we are going to use our OpenAI key. So the way to do that is this API key. Okay, so this is done, and then what we want to do is that we want to define the request body. So just data is equals to, so first of all it takes model. So model is text DaVinci 003. To be very sure, let's check it on the OpenAI site. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, so this is going to look like this. Okay, and then what else do we want? We want a prompt, which is basically going to be the chat prompt. All right, and then what else is there? We want to have max tokens, which is going to be, let's keep it 200. We also want to have a temperature. We want no randomness in the in the chat completion, and basically the response of ChatGPT. So we're going to keep it 0. Okay, so these things, and now we are ready to make the okay. So now we want to make the request. It's going to be requests dot post URL. We have headers equals to headers, and JSON equals to data, right? Okay, and we want to have response equals to response dot JSON. Okay, and now what we want to have is that we want to return the response. So for returning a JSON, we want to use we would import from Django dot http import JSON response. Okay, so we are going to use this module for that. Return JSON dot response of response, and in case this try fails, we want to catch the error. So except, so this try was, yeah, something, if something is wrong, then we can say JSON response. You can say that some error happened, and then which will say that invalid. Yes. So yeah, so this is response, and then if the request or body, if there is no body, then we want to capture this in the else statement. Return JSON response error, sorry, error empty request body. Okay, and now we also want to pass the status equals to 400, and also here also status equals to 400. Okay, so this is done. Yeah, small typo. I think we are good to go. Okay, so now if we want to add anyways, so yeah, so this is fine. So now what we want to do is that we want to go back to our script.js. Okay, so now having done all of this, you can just try to run the server. Python 3 manage.py run server. Okay, so we get this error, view must be okay. Yeah, so this should come inside include. We had imported include, but we have not implemented it. Okay, after having done it, should be fine. Yeah, server is running fine. Yeah, as expected, we have got it at API, but yeah, but right now this would not work. We have to send it via. Coming back to the code, uh, now what is the next step? We have to connect it to the connect the backend to the front end. That step is sort of remaining. So okay, let's just so now we'll have to check. So yeah, so first of all, this loader is running. We'll have to clear that loader. That three dots that is running. So we'll have to close it. Okay, and then what we need to do? We need to basically uh, we need to clear out any existing, you know, thing which is uh, there in the inner HTML. And now we have to check, whether the response is fine. And response is basically sending 200 message, so it's fine or it's okay. So what we want to do is that we want to capture the JSON data equals to await response gotten dot JSON. Okay, and now the text, or we can say that the response is basically equals to the JSON data. So so basically, if we look at the response, then it is in the form of object and basically a dictionary. So we want to take the options, the choices for that, JSON data dot choices, and the first element, and then we want to take the text. That is how it's there in the payload of OpenAI. Okay, and once we have it, we want to put it in the type text, which was supposed to basically uh, type in the text one by one character by one. So type text, this response, which is basically in the message div, we want to put the response. Okay, and if it is not fine, then what do we want to do? We'll have to take care of that as well, right? So we're getting some error in that case, so which is basically be equal to response uh, response dot text, right? And then what we want to do is that we want to take the inner HTML of our message div, and we can type something went wrong. We don't want to put this in the type text because this is just a error message, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Alert. Okay, cool. So this is done till now. So here we want to run npm run dev. Yeah, so it is running at 5173. If you look, then code, let's see if we can do something now. Okay, so in the place of URL here, we want to put in the server domain for the backend, which is basically this. So okay, yeah, so URL is going to basically be this /API. Okay, this is there. And then now if we look at yeah, so now if we look at it, go to the code again. Yeah, Okay, so what we want to do, you want to go to our Python client, and what we want, now we want to install Django course headers, which should basically take care of this problem. Okay, and now we just go to our settings, and we want to include this in our app section, which is basically course headers. You want to put a comma at the end, otherwise it raises uh, some error that this model could not be found. And we want to put this middleware also a little bit on the top, so we're just going to put it here, course headers dot middleware dot uh, course middleware. Okay, seems good. Also, what we want to do is that we want to include, what all websites we want to allow. Course allowed HTTP. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now if we run the server again, no module name request, pip install requests. Okay. Should not have a path, so we'll just take this. Now it should be, yeah, now the server is running. And now let's look at our chatbot. There's some problem. I think I figured it out. It was that I was not incrementing, as in the type text, when we have printed it out. So we need to increment the index. Okay. Yeah. So this should. Okay. Let's check it again. Okay. I think we have not cleared the interval. We did clear it out, right? 1 second. Oh, so we had to clear it out, clear out the this one interval. Okay. So this was supposed to be load interval because we had defined it here. So, and this load interval we had to clear it out. Okay. Now let's check. Same. so we are just trying to undo this and do, so now if you look at it, we are clearing out the loader which is already cleared out. Okay, so we don't want to clear this because this loader, we want to clear out this load interval, not the loader function. Okay, so clear interval, this is load interval. Okay, this is the load interval which you want to clear out. Okay, so now if you look at it, so here we have got a small typo again, so this should be dot text. Okay, fine. So just interval. Okay, yeah, so this was supposed to be interval and not load interval. Okay, correct. Now it should be fine. Now if you see, yeah, so how the code looks like, I mean how the output looks like. So we say, hey, how are you? I'm doing great. Can you tell me where is Bangalore? Great. Yeah, so as you can see, this chatbot is working fine. You can build your own chatbot. Couple of things that you can do. Uh, you can use a nice UI with React, or some of the great animations that we have. So you can build a lots of great UI with that. Also, you can improve the backend. We are just taking the prompt and we're not doing anything. So if you want to customize your chatbot for a specific use case downstream, suppose you want to build a chatbot for your application, which is a travel website, so you can use your own database to enable that. So hopefully we'll try to look some of those things also in our future videos. But till then, thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye bye.